Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Ascension Playground. This is your friend Ursie, and thank you so much for tuning in and joining me today on the playground. You know, we made it to November of 2022, and it's starting to get a little chilly out here in California. So thankful for some recent rain and even hail, but you can almost tell that our Mother Earth is just going through her cold flashes to hot flashes. It seems like there's extremes. We were turning on the fans and trying to cool ourselves one day, then the very next day turning on the heater and trying to warm ourselves. So it's very interesting to be in this, well, in this ecliptic portal, as well as all of us move into this photonic light belt of an area in our galaxy where we've never been before. So you can tell that it doesn't take me very long before I do start going galactic. And so today I'd like to just share with you a little bit about some of the star language, some of the terminology that I've been picking up along the way, in case you yourself are new to the idea of, well, what is the difference between, let's say, a star and a planet? Those are kind of basic terms, but I was starting to learn that, oh, there's a constellation, but then there's star clusters. What's the difference? Anyway, I thought I would share some of my little musings with you as we all go forward and have more of a heightened galactic awareness. Let's see if I can speak today. Just got back from the dentist. Strange thing happened. I'm getting my teeth cleaned and my jaw locked. So I just hold the space that maybe I'm supposed to hold a certain position in my jaw. Don't open my mouth too wide and just, speak a little more softly. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to share. Here we are. I hope you can see this. I am so excited about this idea that beautiful Hermetic principle of as above, so below, as without, so within. And so here's this idea and this beautiful image that I pulled together of what if we're all on an evolutionary journey? Now let's see. Here's the rest of me. If you didn't know, this is Ursula O'Farrell, your guide on the side from the Ascension Playground. So here we go. Let's talk about stars and then our own human experience. Here we go. So the human stuff and the star stuff, what happens when they come together? Let's see if I can move myself over here. So, this word evolution, if you asked in the 1970s about what do you think about that word evolution? Here in America, it would immediately be thought of as, well, you're talking about creationism versus Darwinism. Today, I'm using the word an evolutionary journey because as the scientists are studying how stars are created, their natural progression, I can't help but wonder too about our own human evolutionary process, especially if you hold this idea that the ancients would agree maybe we are all just star stuff, that we've been created from the stars, whether it's DNA or the Big Bang, whatever that is. It's fascinating to track and study from a scientific experiment and then moving into how do the spiritual path kind of meet up. So I'm holding this idea of the human and star stuff. And let's just see on the playground, is there something we can learn together as a star evolves and what that means for our own human progression? Okay, so I put this picture up for you. You're ready to dive into this wormhole. Let's move into the galactic. Let's just see what's out there. Again, the playground is about let's make believe, let's dream again. So buckle up, allow your inner child to come forward because we're talking about the imaginal realms of you as you're 5, 6, or even 7-year-old self. Now, when I look, and sorry, the image is a little blurry, you look out in the heavens at night and it's gorgeous. But then some people start putting, the constellations on the map. So, for anyone who doesn't know, a constellation is a grouping of stars. And back in the day, our friend Ptolemy, he basically helped create names for these constellations. And so today we have 88 named constellations. But here's my intuitive sense. My spidey sense thinks that with the James Webb Telescope by NASA today in 2022, able to bring back images, we're going to find even more amazing star stuff. And who knows if we're going to have even more constellations named. So I wanted to show this picture of this vortex. We've agreed to go down this rabbit hole. We're in the galactic, going into our bodies and out into the heavens. Are you still with me? Look at this idea of the vortex. This beautiful essence of the spin, this toroidal spin that goes out and then comes back in. We're finding that that's happening within our heart chakras, our mind chakras. Gaia the Mother Earth has its own kind of toroidal spin. So back in the day, I would even say a year ago, I could look out into the night's heaven, and all I really could find, honestly, was, okay, that looks like the Big Dipper, and then maybe over there's the Little Dipper. That's about all I could really focus on. I didn't know about Orion's belt. I didn't know about the Orion's constellation, other than I thought, oh, those are just nice words. So, we take one step at a time. And I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Okay. So note to self, edit this part. So as I'm looking up into the heavens and I can find the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper as a young person, learning that there's constellations, I wanted to show you this picture. And can you look at this image? Can anyone tell me any of the names of some of these constellations? Because a constellation is basically, again, a grouping of stars. And the stars are named. So they're grouped. But see this big central one? It looks like almost like a cruciform with almost longer wings to it. Let's see, I'm going to be giving this away in a minute. Here we go. That central constellation that I just showed you is the constellation named Cygnus. I have to work on my speech. Cygnus. There you go. Cygnus. And that constellation has a picture in Urania's Book of Mirrors, or Urania's book. Here we are with Cygnus. So these images also come from the Book of Stars that you can buy on Amazon. It's a wonderful way. Catherine Tennant put this nice guidebook together so I can look at a picture, which this is one of, and I see the constellation Cygnus. And right next to the swan is an upside down lyre, which is the harp or Lyra constellation. And then there's some fox with a goose in its mouth. And then there's an alligator over there. So this is how you start learning about the constellations and how they're grouped with one another. Let's see if I can. Here we go. Now, from Cygnus, I got to just let you know, I have these two books. I have a lot of spiritual books, but the Cygnus Key, I'll say that again, Cygnus Key, the Denisovan legacy of Göbekli Tepe and the birth of Egypt. If anyone is on Ancient Aliens or Gaia TV, check out Andrew Collins. He wrote this book. He also wrote Göbekli Tepe, Genesis of the Gods. And then the other book is by Freddie Silva, whom I've met and taken a class with, on the Divine Blueprint. So both Andrew Collins and Freddie Silva are tracking how the constellations worked with architecture, ancient architecture. And there's this word called archaeoastronomy, working with how the stars, very specific stars and constellations, worked with either a temple's opening or a portal or even the top of the pyramids. So we're starting to see how the stars can also influence down here on Earth. And then when you start looking at star stuff, you can't go very far without meeting Bernadette Brady. And here's a picture of Bernadette. I love her book, Brady's Book of Fixed Stars, because in it, she starts giving you some of the stories about the stars in the heavens. And as we play this galactic game using our natal birth charts, we start putting it together with, oh, here are some of the metaphoric and energetic stories that may have informed my birth moment, where these energies may be carried in my current lifetime here on Earth in 3D. Her second book, Star and Planet Combinations, is also quite extraordinary. I actually invested into Bernadette Brady's online program too, called Starlight. So just fascinating how she works with the stars in interpreting natal charts. All right, what do we have next? Here we go. Here we go. This is where Ursula on the playground wants to start talking to you now about a little bit of terminology. Thanks to my friend Anne Marie. Anne Marie has joined us here on the playground. She's helped me kind of understand, okay, what's the difference? So let me just say for beginners, a planet, we can relate to a planet because we're on planet Earth. Then you start learning about planets like Mars and Venus, the ones that are in our solar system. And the reason it's called a solar system is because these planets, including Earth, go around the star named Sol, S-O-L. So I love how when you read, there is only one solar system because there's one star named Sol. So when you start talking about other systems, they're going to be orbiting around different stars. Isn't that interesting? I'll just pause there for a minute. There's only one solar system because our star is named Sol. It's the sun. And we're part of the planets that orbit around our star. And our star is within a matrix or constellations within the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, do you see how I put that in there? There's a planet that orbits a star that's within a constellation within a galaxy. Okay, and the center of our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, is known as the galactic center. It's a black hole, a supermassive black hole. So it's just learning this terminology, right? Because we're seeing beautiful, beautiful pictures, but we're not sure really what am I looking at? And okay, I got to pause for a minute. Any of you who really relate to the Pleiades or the Hyades? Here's the funny part. I was like, aren't the Pleiades a constellation? And the answer is no, they're a star cluster within the constellation of Taurus, the bull. I know there's a lot of layering here, but we're playing on the playground. And so it's learning like how to play hopscotch. There's certain rules and there's certain words that you use, right, to play hopscotch. And there's a certain body movement. So we've covered planet Earth, orbiting our sun named Sol. And then here's where I want to jump right into this idea of what the heck is a nebula? Because we're going to find, if you've been on Julia Balaz's incredible galacticastrology.com, if you've found the calculator, galacticastrochart.com is another way to find the free online calculator. You're going to find the word nebula pop up, the Orion Nebula and the Lyra Ring Nebula. Okay? Even though they say nebula, they're a little bit different. Orion Nebula versus the Lyra Ring Nebula. And we'll see if we get to the differences in a little bit. But I wanted to give a shout out that there's other fixed stars in our visible heavens. And this is where the fixed stars come in. They're called fixed because they don't move very far from our earthly position, so they move slightly, right? But not like the way the planets do. Mars, Mercury is always retrograding or moving fast around the sun. But the reason why there's such, I think, interest in fixed stars now is because we're trying to take a broader look into more of a galactic consciousness. Again, James Webb's telescope is bringing us back some incredible star images. All right, so on the bottom here in my little picture, you're going to see that I put in this idea of portals, and then here's more images of that beautiful Orion Ring Nebula and the Orion Nebula. I don't want to put that word ring. It's an Orion Nebula. And the Lyra Ring Nebula is because it has a specific ring around it, okay, which gives it the look of an eye. And then there's other fixed stars. Okay, let me see if I can get one more couple images to show you. Here's beautiful Julia Balaz. Yes, so if you go to her galacticastrology.com, which so much of my playlist here on the Ascension Playground is an excitement about sharing her good work. In her calculator, she will show you the Orion Nebula. And for any astrologers out there or wannabe astrologers, this is sitting at 25 degrees of Gemini, 18 minutes. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Lyra Ring Nebula. And remember, there's a ring around that image. It's also called M57. And there's an M around the Orion Nebula, which I forgot to put in. But back to the Lyra Ring Nebula sitting at 20 degrees of Capricorn, 18 minutes. And these are degrees for 2022. And it looks like I found a way to put in the Andromeda galaxy, which is sitting within the Andromeda constellation, but holds a very different frequency just because it's in that constellation. It's more of a portal, the Andromeda galaxy at 28 degrees Aries, 8 minutes. So if you have the galaxy showing up on your natal chart, pay attention, highlight it, circle it. It's very important to kind of look at that. All right, so I know I'm leaving you with well, tell us the rest of the story. Okay, I'm almost gonna just do a little teaser here. I found a little information to share with you about. It all starts with a nebula. So once upon a time, and this is an image coming from the Royal Observatory in Edinburgh. Now, there's various telescopes around the world, and if you didn't know, like I didn't know, the Northern Hemisphere can see certain stars and unable to see other stars because they're sitting in the Southern Hemisphere. And if they're what's called circumpolar, which is just going around the poles, people in the North will never see some of the stars in the South and vice versa. So that's why they have this whole idea of various telescopes from around the world. And I did talk with you about this amazing telescope that's basically virtually sharing information from all these other telescopes and putting together virtual images. And I'll have to remember the name of this virtual amazing telescope that took the picture of the first black hole of the galactic center. So I'm sorry, I'll just have a mind. What was the name of that telescope? Oh, here it is. It's called the Event Horizon Telescope. I thought it was like an event conference center, but it's actually not. So sorry if I'm losing some of you, but let's go back to this idea of evolutionary process for a star. And it does begin with a nebula. Look at this beautiful nebula. This is the Orion Nebula. Think about this. Whenever you see the word nebula here on the playground, It means it's interstellar clouds of dust and gas. So imagine what it takes to create a star. And the nebula are clouds of high temperature gas and dust. So I see they have in bold that some nebulas, because when you go Google images of show me images of nebula, some are several light years in diameter. I can't even comprehend that. I can barely deal with a day or a week, much less light years. But here's an image I'm going to almost end with. Here you have a nebula, okay? And let me see if I can get my little pointer. Oops. Let me go back one. Here we go. I'm going to have to figure this out. Here we go. My laser pointer. Here it is. Nebula. Stellar evolution. As I'm sharing this with you, I want you to think about its connections to human genesis, our origins, our gestation process. So here's the nebula. Again, remember Julia's calculator, Lyra Ring Nebula, and let's right now focus on Orion Nebula. Here's an Orion Nebula. Now, things get separated out, like in Harry Potter's, separating out with the hat. It all comes down to mass. How big are you? Well, the big high mass stars move into this main sequence. But if your mass coming out of the nebula is small or medium size, you have to move over into this level over here, this type of sequence. So from this mass, let's say gestation, if you look like you're a big, huge baby, you got to go this way. So let's follow the high mass stars. How big are you? You could then move from this main sequence into eventually becoming a red supergiant. So from big to red supergiant to supernova. Holy mackerel. See, the little guys, they never become a supernova. And the mid-sized guys, they never become a supernova. It's only the big dudes. They go from main sequence, red supergiant, to supernova. And when the stars are in that huge supernova state, they then move into two categories of a high mass star that will become a neutron star. Think Jimmy Neutron. Okay, it's from a supernova into a neutron star. And then the others go from a very high mass star. See, it's always separated out by scale, by size, the mass. How massive are you? So the very high mass stars evolve eventually into what's called a black hole. And there's a lot of cool things about black holes and supermassive black holes, but we won't go there today. Let's go back to this creation moment of the nebula. I like to think of it as the star nursery, right? Little baby stars. Okay, so here's where our little guys go, or medium-sized guys go. The main sequence then moves them into red giants. So when you start reading about stars, if they say it's a red supergiant, it's following this evolutionary path down below. But if it's just a red giant, you then move into what's called a planetary nebula. See, look at that. Doesn't that shape and eye look more like the Lyra Ring Nebula? There's like a ring around it. And then eventually those planetary nebulas move into what's called a white dwarf. So when we start talking about like, oh, Pluto just got downgraded, or we thought Pluto was a planet, now it's a dwarf planet. So it's starting to understand what is the vocabulary that they're using in science. And again, here's my last, promised you, my last slide. Thank you for staying with me. So it's another way of just going through some visuals to show you what I was just talking about. Here, I'll move myself. Here we start with this interstellar cloud. This is the nebula, okay? And it's moving itself out to small stars or large stars. Here's a red supergiant. Here's a supernova. And now the supernova in the black case is moving it out to the black hole. But this diagram is also pointing up to neutron stars right there, a black hole or a neutron star. And look at that toroidal shape coming out of the neutron star. All right, we digress and go back to the interstellar cloud or the nebula. And now from the protostar, it's moving up to the small star, red giant, planetary nebula, and the white dwarf. Wow. That was just a small little taste test, not to, tongue tie ourselves as we're learning about the language of the stars, the evolutionary process of the stars. So again, going back to Julia's calculator, that beautiful Lyra ring nebula, the ring nebula, we could see it associated with a smaller to mid-sized path. And then when we think of the Orion Nebula, we think of that early nursery. Check out the James Webb Telescope. There's so many amazing, amazing images coming from NASA to share with us now in 2022. I just think when we start learning about this separating out and the evolutionary journey, I'm going to bring it back to you now. And it goes beyond your physical body. I have a sense that there's some who are listening who came to Earth many times, who've been around the galaxy many times. And I would think from your genesis that maybe you were moved more towards the okay, here to do some pivotal work, here to hold the light and help support the collective as together we all expand. And then there are those who are saying, hey, I'm here, I'm embodied, but I'm going to follow this other track. I want to be that shining, planetary nebula. And that's so beautiful. It's learning how to parse out and understand, why are you here? Why am I here? Yes, it does have to deal with mass when we're talking science, but when we're talking energetics, when we're talking about why are you here? What's your purpose? What's your mission? It's that big pause. And here's the spoiler alert. When you play this cosmic game of evolutionary journeying, we know that when we get off the third and fourth dimensional timeline of beginning, middle, and end, and we move more into this quantum space, and behold, we were all there at the beginning. We were in different forms, we were in different combinations and recipes, but in some sense, we were all there, all part of the one source. And I personally believe and dream that we bring all of our collective awareness, all of the choices, the free will choices, and the experiences we've made in this earthly life back with us to learn from, to expand, and to help support the bigger, what I would call solar logos, working within so many different dimensions, even beyond solar logos, maybe metaverse logos. Thanks for joining me here on the playground. I so enjoy hearing and reading your comments. Thank you. Thank you. If you like learning more about the star language and how it relates to the calculator, put a comment below. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, and this is something that you'd like to hear more of, go ahead and subscribe, like, and share. You're helping build the playground one subscription at a time. Thanks, everybody. Tune into this great portal of light that's available to us now, especially as we are in between the eclipses. Hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.